So hello and welcome. This is the first of 60 conversations that I am going to have over the next 12 months to celebrate my 60th birthday, which is pretty exciting. So this conversation is happening at the beginning of June, and my birthday is at the beginning of December, so that is in 6 months. And then I'm going to go on till next June. So over a whole 12-month period, I'm going to celebrate my big 60 years of being on this planet, and sharing some of what I've learned and connecting with some awesome, amazing people to bring you their perspective on the things that I share, the things that I talk about. So I thought, what better way to kick this off than with my gorgeous niece Bec, who kind of followed me into this arena, really.
I did.
And then made her own mind up about what she sees, how she sees this, which is exactly what this conversation is about. If you are unsure about what these conversations might be, if you're unsure, so basically I came across a spiritual understanding of how life works, the fact that there is way more to us than just being human. And this is very, very much, this exploration is very, very much a personal exploration. This is about you looking to see what you can see. And that's exactly what happened with Bec. Basically, I shared some of what I had seen. I shared what was going on for me. And then over time, Bec then looked within herself, looked for herself, and now she shares beautifully what she has seen. So the thing that I am incredibly interested in this exploration now, I've been around this understanding for since about 2011 was when I first came across a man called Sydney Banks, and since then I've explored in all sorts of directions, about how we work as human beings, how we get our human experience. But Sydney Banks has definitely had a huge impact on me, what I see and what I share. We are talking here about how we work as human beings, how we operate, how we work from the inside out, not as it appears that the world is coming at us and we're getting all this stuff that we have to deal with. And as I said, at this moment in time, on the beginning of my 60th year on this planet, what I'm particularly interested in is how is it that we create the experience that we are having. Like, a lot of spiritual teachers point to the fact that we are creators, we are born creators, and we are creating the experience that we have. And I can tell you, I have had plenty of experiences in my life that I am like, there's no way I created that. I did not want that. I do not want that. How is it possible that I created that? And then I've had some amazing experiences that I'm like, yeah, owning that was all me, must have been me. I definitely would have had that. But yeah, what I love exploring at the moment is, how is it that we do that? And how can we do it in such a way that we don't get so many of those ones that we're sort of saying, there's no way I would have created that? And how can we get more of those ones we really love? And then there's something else going on at the moment that I've noticed quite a lot. I'm seeing people talking about how difficult life is. Now, don't get me wrong, if you can go back and find this somewhere else and look, if you know my story, there would have been many, many times when I would have sort of said life is incredibly hard. But I just want to explore, is it possible that we've got that wrong? That life in and of itself isn't hard? That is our starting point wrong here? So I don't know, Bec, if you've got anything you want to jump in and just start this conversation, and let's see what comes out.
Sure. I'm going to start by saying congratulations. 60, yeah, in a big 60. And the 39 years that I've enjoyed of those with you have been a blast. So here's to 60 more for you.
Oh, absolutely.
Happy birthday, Deb. And thank you for making me the first of your conversations. This is going to be fun. So I'm looking forward to this. There was so much in what you said that, a few times I was thinking, stop, I want to talk to that. Stop, I want to say. But no, it was really good, because there's some real rich stuff there. I think the first thing that I wanted to dive in with, when you said about the sometimes the things that kind of happen in our life and we can say, there's no way I would have chosen that, created that. And then there's those places where we go, yeah, I wanted that. So I created that. I chose that. That was me. And when you were saying that, it reminded me when I first came to have conversations with you, you referred at the beginning to, you know, I sort of blindly followed you when you were first sharing a little bit about this. And no, it was a beautiful experience to have some conversations with you early on, because I had gotten into such a mess. And what I remember about that time was I sort of knew that I'd created that mess, but the thing I was most curious about was why. Like, I knew the mess I was in was kind of my doing. I could see that almost straight away, but I was really curious as to why would I have created such a mess for myself? Because, you know, I'm, relatively speaking, quite intelligent. I have had quite a good life. My family have been good people to me. I've never really gone without, if you know what I mean. So I was really, when we were first having our conversations, that was one of the things for me that was, I was curious, why would I have created such a mess? And I think early on in our conversations, one of the things that helped me was to see the innocence in that. Like when we do stumble across something and think, there's no way I would have created that. Seeing the innocence in when we do create things that we then stand back and go, I don't want this. But also then it kind of, what I was about to say then, to kind of touch on what you then went to with the starting point of life is hard. Could we actually have a little talk about that? What I saw in the why part of it was seeing that my starting point was wonky. And if our starting point is off kilter, where we end up is going to be miles off from where we were aiming for. And my starting point at that time, a little bit like you said, was that life was hard, but also for me there was a whole heap of stuff around not being lovable, not being enough, not being likable. I was very insecure, very unsure of myself, and so my starting point was, I'm not whole, I'm not complete, I'm not good enough. And from there, what I actually did on some level made sense. You know, if that had been true about who I was, what I ended up doing, getting into a very messy relationship, both romantically and within my working scenario, how I ended up doing that and where I went with that would have made sense if my starting point had been, if I wasn't good enough, if I wasn't likable, to feel better, what I ended up doing and how I got there would have made perfect sense. But what I really loved about what you were saying, and let's open this conversation up then, my starting point was wrong. Like I'd fundamentally misunderstood something about who I am and who every human being is, that sent me off on a really kind of wild goose chase, if you like. So I actually think having this conversation about what is the correct starting point, like what is fundamentally true about every human being, that if they start from there, where they'll end up and what they will create will be all of the stuff that they can go, yes, I wanted that. Yes, I chose that. Yes, I want more of that. So yeah, let's talk to starting points. Is life actually easier than we think? I think that's a great question to stumble around with.
Is life easier than we think? And that whole I was watching something the other day and I heard someone say the word abracadabra, and I've actually heard someone speak about that word in the past, and I knew the meaning of that word, and it's such a beautiful word. I mean, it's just great on your tongue and in your mouth, isn't it? The word abracadabra. It's a great word. The meaning of abracadabra, and obviously it's associated with magic, and you know, you wave a magic wand, abracadabra, and this thing happens. And the meaning of abracadabra is I speak this into being. As I speak, I create. I'm creating it through my words. And I know one of the things that I like to play around with is that. And I can see exactly like you said, I had created a false starting point through the words that I continually used, you know, about talking about who I was. I created myself by saying, I am not good enough, I am not lovable, I am all of those things, definitely. So it's like, okay, so if that was a creation, if you like, then if we strip that back, what's behind that, what created that, And can we go back there and see that, can we recreate that? I know one of the things that we play at a lot is recreation. And it is very much like that. It is, you know, how are we speaking about this? How are we showing up to this? I know one of the things that I have struggled with a little bit about having this conversation myself, one of the things, my thinking that gets in my way is I don't sort of want to come in and offend people who are struggling and and life feels very difficult for them. And I don't want to dismiss that and say, you know, there's, you know, anything really. I know, like, the people pleaser in me kind of wants to not have this conversation, if you like, because I have been that person. I have really struggled and suffered. But also what I do want to explore and to look at is to see that actually I can, a little bit like you, I can look back at my past and see how I created what happened for me. And one of the most difficult things was for me was actually owning some of those things that I didn't, you know, I absolutely, like, my children didn't have a very good start in life because of who I was being and how I was showing up. And if I was going to say I created this, you know, I've got to say, yeah, my children didn't have a great start in life, and that was on me. And that's not easy to do that. And here we come back again. But is that made up too? Is that story up that I'm telling that's not easy? And actually, what I have seen through that is now that just makes total sense to me. And I am okay with that now. I can see, I mean, my children are great. They are doing great things in the world, all three of them. We had spent a beautiful weekend together over the bank holiday weekend. And, you know, I was watching each one of them. They're very, very different people. They're not different.
No, they're gorgeous.
Very, very different people to each other, and have created very different things in their worlds for themselves. But each one of them, you know, they're doing amazingly. They're doing great things. And so, yeah, it is this exploring of how powerful this power. I know we were talking about Sydney Banks, and the way that he articulated, the way that he spoke about how we work, you know, the understanding that we're exploring. He talked about mind, thought, and consciousness, 3 principles, and how they create our experience. And I know he talked about thought, and thought with a capital T, rather than the random thoughts that we have going through our mind. He talked about this power, this spiritual gift that we have of this power of thought. And to me, you know, even when we go back to the Bible and creation and see, you know, in the Bible it talks about how the word, God created with the word. So we're looking at something that each and every one of us has within us, this ability, this spiritual gift of thought with a capital T, not necessarily the personal ramblings that go on a lot, but that power that we have that creates worlds, that creates universes. And that's, you know, when we misunderstand and we believe that, you know, we're just at the mercy of something coming at us, then changing that starting point to looking at all of who we are. But, you know, I talked about the Bible, whether the word God, whether the word universe, whether the word inner being, source, whatever it is, but that bigger part of us that we are connected to, that we cannot be separated from. When we bring all of ourselves to the table, not just this little human bit, you know, the amazing things that we can see and do and create in the world, it blows my mind.
Yes, it's incredible, isn't it? And there was, again, so much in that I want to talk to, and the first thing I want to touch on, actually, and I was having this very conversation with a client this morning when you said about the people pleaser in you not necessarily wanting to talk about the ease of life, because if a person hears that who's struggling, that can feel like, you know, an attack or anything like that. And one of the things that kind of occurs to me around that is when this is a metaphor I love to share, is if you're a person who is drowning and I get out of a boat and start drowning in the water with you, there's now two people drowning.
Yeah.
And that's of no help whatsoever. But if I stay in my boat and bring you into the boat with me, now we've got two very safe people. And for me, the work we do is that we're bringing people into the boat. And I really see, like, when you talked then about kind of those elements in there that you're talking about, individual human experiences and then our spiritual connected nature. As an individual human experience, each of us entirely has the right to stay drowning, to continue to drown. And one of the things when I was talking this morning, this client and I just came up in conversation, and I was sort of saying, if somebody doesn't want to get in the boat, I fully respect their right to continue their own human experience.
Absolutely.
But if you're out there in some way drowning, and I'm here sitting here with the boat and you want in, there's room for everybody in this boat. And I think really for me, it's just about us being really clear that there's room in our boat if you want in. If you want to stay drowning, that's absolutely fine. I won't pull you into the boat. I won't disrespect you in that way. But if you want to get into the boat, let's talk about this. Let's be really bold and brave and say, life does not have to be this hard. Because it isn't. Like, the fundamentals of how life works. And I loved when you touched on Sydney Banks and mind, thought and consciousness, because that was the first thing that had me hooked. That was the first conversations we used to have. And it's a very simple metaphor for how our experience is being created. Like, what Sydney Banks did was understand his experience and find a way to metaphorically share that so other people could understand it. And for me, it's really simple. It's actually incredibly simple how we work as human beings. And that's the ease. Like, the only thing that gets hard about life is when we think it's something else that's happening. When we think there is something other than mind, thought and consciousness at play. When we think our experience is coming from something outside of us, someone, some situation, some anything other than an internal mind, thought, consciousness creation, that's when it feels hard. And let me be clear about that. It feels hard, not it is hard.
Yeah.
And again, that brings us back to our starting point, because the starting point is we feel what we think. We feel our internal conversation, story, film, whatever's going on kind of through our system up here. We feel that, like, we feel what we think. That's the simplicity of this. And when we understand that, life flows with ease, because in a given moment, if I'm anxious, struggling, worried, and I know that I'm feeling my thinking, I don't have to do anything about that. I don't have to try and make my partner be different. I don't have to try and make my business different. I don't have to stop driving because I'm anxious about. I just understand that I'm feeling my thinking.
Yeah.
And equally, if I'm having a good experience, I know that I'm feeling my thinking. But when we're kind of, when life feels hard, we think we're feeling something else. We think we're feeling a real situation or a real problem.
It's interesting when we feel great, isn't it, that we don't have this urge to fix it or change it. And yet when we don't feel good, we have this urge to change that and to feel something different. But I know it's been a game changer for me to just understand what is going on when I am there, and do as little as possible from that place. Because I absolutely, you know, the fact that we don't feel good it's like a warning light, like an alarm clock, isn't it? It's like a system it's a fantastic system that we are a part of. I mean, the ease of the system is amazing and brilliant. But it is, we misunderstand it. Because I know when I used to feel urgent or anxious or any of those things, or there would be something, something's got to be different, I would, the feeling of that came with a feeling that you must take action, and you must take action right now. And what I understand much, much more these days is actually that feeling is actually telling you to stand back, actually
Yes.
take a breath. Your thoughts are, you know, they're out to lunch, you're crazy, you're not thinking straight, you're not thinking and just, you know, wait until you feel a little bit better. And one of the things that I absolutely love about this guidance system, if you like, that we have, the way that we feel, is it seems to me, and I've been playing around with this a lot along with the creation and how we do things, I've been playing with this, and it always feels that, you know, if I don't feel great and I have this urge to change it or to be something different, what I notice is that it's like no thought seems to come on its own. It seems to have friends, thoughts do. And they seem to have a friend who's a slightly nicer friend and a friend who's not such a nice friend.
Yeah.
And I notice, you know, if I get upset about something, I don't know, I could have, if I have the thought, I'm feeling anxious because it feels like there's something wrong with my car, you know, then I can have the thought, well, you know, I can phone Russ. He, you know, he can potentially help me with this, or I can pull over, or I can have, you know, a slightly better thought about it, or I can have this thought, oh my gosh, this happens to me every time. My car's always breaking down today, and a slightly worse thought. And it feels like I have, in my experience, has been that I have the ability to choose where I put my focus as I have begun to understand and see this in action. When I see, you know, well, this is going on, whatever this feeling is with me, and then it's right, okay, so I can see the thoughts that are taking me down the plug hole, if you like. I can see them and the invitation, think me, think me, think me. And,
Yes.
and then I can see the invitation that is saying, you know, actually this maybe isn't as bad, or, you know, even that, you know that this happens sometimes and you're thinking, does this, you know, not to take any notice. And it's kind of going, yeah, you know, want to come in this direction with me. And it feels like I have the ability to shift my focus and, you know, to where I want it to be. And I know sometimes, you know, there's something in me that's almost kind of like, no, I want to be annoyed or upset or
Yes.
But coming back to that, the question and our starting point, you know, is life, you know, is our starting point that we are whole and complete, we are not broken, we're, you know, we are, when we connect to this deeper part of us, when we bring all of us to the table, when you think that deeper part, you know, when you think of source, the universe, whatever you want to call it, when you think, you know, I'm looking out of the window at the moment and I can see a tree just moving in the breeze, and I can see the sky behind the trees, and you know, that tree, it's one of the ones, the little, I've watched the seeds come off, and they're like little helicopters. They're those kind of ones, they fly down, and it's like within that seed, I mean, that tree is enormous, and the seed that it came from, you know, is tiny. And it's like the intelligence that I am connected to when I show up as all of who I am is the intelligence that knew how to create that seed, knew how to create the sky behind it, the rain clouds, the sunshine that feeds it, the rain that comes down, you know, all of those things. So when I get into a place of, you know, or whatever, I don't know, I've fallen out with my partner or something like that, and I'm kind of thinking, well, the intelligence that I can connect to help me, if I actually choose to follow that thought that's the better friend, if you like, I'm moving in the direction of that intelligence. And when I move in the other direction, I'm moving away from that, further away from that intelligence, into little me, if you like, into my thinking. I was like, what a perfect system, as perfect as the seed that comes up that tree.
Yeah. It's really like when you kind of look at it like that and talk to it like that, that's the simplicity again, isn't it? That's the,
Absolutely.
like, life is easy. There's an ease here that is built in. And kind of when you were saying about I love that thoughts come with friends. There's the any kind of TV show you watch with a group of friends, you always got the the main character, his best buddy that always looks out for him, and then his slightly dodgy buddy that takes him to pubs and clubs you don't want to go to. It's that, isn't it? And it was what kind of occurred to me when you were saying that about the thoughts, and you can go down the plug hole of this one or you can follow this one. It actually takes no more effort to choose that one versus that one, whichever one, you're good or bad. Like, there is no more effort required to choose either, or to go in either direction. And I think that's the bit where we say life is hard. What we mean by that is it's harder to choose the good feeling. It's harder to go with the good thought. It's harder to follow that path. And we say that without even looking at it or questioning it. We say that as solid truth, don't we? And I know for you and I and our family and the way we were brought up, there's an element underlying our family sometimes of life is hard, but we just get on with it. Like, that's kind of a little bit of a mantra that we sort of grew up with, which on the surface sounds good. I'll just get on with it. But when you actually stop and look, life is hard. When we see the system and how it worked, like you've just said there, how clever it is that the system came fitted with a way for us to know whether to go left or right, whether to go that way or that way, whether to go with that friend or that friend, which thought's going to take me where. It comes, like, the system comes with a way of us knowing which one of those thoughts is going to take us where, and the free will to choose either way, and the fact that neither one is more difficult or easier than it, that it's as easy to choose either one of those. So there's nothing hard about that. Like, it's like, oh, there's the good feeling, there's the not so great feeling. I can choose that one or that one. I have the free will. Which one will I choose? And that is that easy. And the only, like I was saying earlier, it's only hard because we're living in the thought at that point in time. It's hard. And then the friend comes along and says, no, it's even harder than that. And then there's a friend over here going, it's easier. And we're just going, okay, I'll choose the harder one then.
And that comes back around, doesn't it, to that abracadabra. And it's like we speak these things into being. And that comes back. It reminds me, at the beginning of this call, when I said I have a little bit of thinking about getting into this topic because the people pleaser in me, and that's that friend, isn't it? I have this thought that says, oh, you might upset someone if you say that. That's the hold down the plug hole thought. And that is tempting me to kind of go, oh, don't get into this conversation because, but that's a thought that I'm choosing to believe is true and to follow that thought. And equally, there's this other thought that imagine how helpful that could be to a lot of people. And actually, if people are ready to come on board the boat, if people are ready to stop struggling, isn't it great that there's something here that they can hold on to and do? And so, that's a perfect example of that. And it is like, okay, are you more tempted to kind of shy away from what you know for yourself is true, what you can share, what can be helpful? Because I know, I absolutely can see the people pleaser in me, that this idea pulls me down the plug hole a lot. And then it's this, okay. But like you say, it's a system that we can follow that is impeccable, and it's never going to, it's what I love about our guidance system is it is rather like gravity. It is like a law of the universe. It's not, we can't say to gravity, oh, can you switch off for a bit because I'm going up this ladder and I might drop my hammer and I don't want to drop my hammer or whatever. It's like, no, gravity does what gravity does. So if you're going to go up a ladder and you're holding onto a hammer, that tie it to your belt with a bit of string or something, work with gravity, because gravity is always going to be the same. And I know, like, from the thing that I have found the hardest, one of the things, when I look back around, when I think of human beings, is one of the things was in my relationships and things, it felt like I never knew where I stood because I never knew how people were going to show up. So actually, gravity being like that, and this system behind life, this
Yes.
system that we can follow, it's really, really great that it doesn't change to do
Yep.
it's like, yeah, this is how it is. If you follow that not so good feeling thought, like when that thought comes to me, don't share that. It comes with, it definitely is tight and contracted. It feels like I'm making myself smaller than who I am. And the thought that says, no, share this wide, get on here, have these conversations, celebrate who you are, celebrate your birthday, do this. That feels much more expanded. And then just as we were speaking, then, this voice kind of popped into my head, well, or maybe just hide. And, it's going on all the time, isn't it? But the feeling that came with that thought was, ooh, not so nice, and it is just, but as I said, I love about this system is you can just rely on it.
Yeah.
You and just learning for yourself, what does feel slightly better from where you are? What does feel slightly worse from where you are? And just follow that. And recognize that, if we come back to the abracadabra thing, we speak into being, we've heard it said so many times, life is hard, like you said, exactly like you said, that it's sort of our mantra that, life's hard, but we get on with it. That's what we do. We battle against it and we get on with it. And I'm really interested in changing that and being something like, no, actually life is easy and we flow with it. Life is beautiful and we flow with it. And that isn't to say that stuff doesn't happen, but it's like when we totally understand this amazing system that we are a part of, this amazing guidance system that we have, in the most, in all circumstances, there is a way to find that ease and that flow with life. No matter what, we can drop into that, find that, and flow with that. And that is really, like, I'm very interested in abracadabraing more of that, instead of life is hard, but we battle and get on with it. That life is, easy and we flow with it. I really like that.
Yeah, that's a beautiful kind of reconsideration, or what you said earlier, we recreate, don't we? We play that game a lot, you and I, recreating people and situations, and like recreating our whole starting point, and making that our starting point. And then kind of when you were saying about the good feeling and the not so great feeling, and recognizing which one's which and stuff, it was really occurring to me again, the ease of that when we understand what it is telling us, and the fact that it's a complete system. It's not a when you said about for quite a long time in your life you were in a position where it felt like there were no rules, or if there were, you didn't know what they were.
No, you have to guess the rules today. Guess the rules
are today. You can look at me, you can't look at me. You have to stay in that room, you can't go in that room. And I know that was actually your experience in your relationship. There were actually rules, but you didn't know what they were, and they changed moment to moment. And actually, when we think about it, it would be like if you're a driver and you go out on the roads, if they change the rules every couple of days about what the traffic light system meant, so as you pulled up to a set of traffic lights, you had no idea whether today it was red means stop or green means stop. It would just be carnage on the roads. Nobody would know where they were going, when they could go, whether they were going to hit something. And what you can see is, it's extremely helpful that we know red is stop and green is go. And that doesn't mean people follow that sometimes.
And then there's carnage and we don't follow the rules. And you see, absolutely, when we don't follow our guidance system, we get into carnage.
Yeah, we get if we misunderstand what the signal is telling us, or we choose not to follow what the signal and pretend it means something. Let's pretend red means go. You watch how quickly that gets you into trouble. And very much it's like, when you know what a traffic light system means, it's very easy to maneuver through a traffic light system. Like, very easy. There's no guessing. There's no, oh, should I go, shouldn't I go? It's red, you don't go. Oh, it's green, you need to move now. And it feels to me like that's the same as the system we're a part of. It's like the inbuilt system in you and me and everybody on this planet is, we get given a red and a green. And that's, you know, that's kind of our feeling system. And as soon as we understand that that's how it works, if we're prepared to follow that, like to actually go, right, okay, I'll follow that. I will stop when it's red. I will go when it's green. We're going to find that the traffic flows with ease in our lives. That's how this works on purpose. Like it's purposefully done so that we can have the best experience possible. And that is just such a gift.
Yeah.
Like, what a gift.
And I love the fact, you know, that is how it works. But we absolutely have free will, you know, like if we had no choice but to follow like the system, the way that the system works, but for me, like the simplicity of it is we follow the good feeling. You know, if we're in a situation, what's the best we can do in this situation? And like I said, it feels like we have a friend who's, you know, the thought that we're having, and then it comes with a friend that's pulling us to, or we could go and do this and make it a lot worse, or we can do this, and you know, and it's like, right, continually just choose that slightly better thought all the time. And you know, it doesn't change. That's how it is. But I get the choice. Like nobody says to me, like, we are fundamentally, another thing about human beings, you know, the things what we've got is that, you know, there is so much more to us. We do have this power, and when we move towards that good feeling, we are moving towards all of who we are, and away from, you know, just trying to take everything on our shoulders as a human being, which is incredibly difficult. Now life is difficult if you're trying to do that.
Yeah, that's when you'll have a very hard experience.
But we get we have free will. You know, we are free to choose that. We are not, it's not, that's why life is like it is. That's why life is this game, and this, you know, why life is full of ups and downs and feelings that life can be hard. It comes from the fact that we have the free will to choose. It is, you know, we come up to the traffic lights, and I know potentially it doesn't feel like it, but it is, you know, if I'm driving up to a light and it's red, I absolutely can just stick my foot down and go. There will be consequences.
Let it be known, there will be.
It is a system that is put in place that I am invited to follow. And it's like, if you don't follow the system, then, you know, things are going to happen. And it's the same with our internal system, isn't it? It's kind of like, there is an ease to this. There is a flow to this. There is, you know, if you learn to understand who you are, and you learn to understand where this system is pointing you to, you know, where it's going, and you follow this system, good things are going to happen. And that to me comes back again to like the creation that I am particularly interested in. It's like, we don't create great things from running red lights and not stopping when a system that is in place is inviting us to stop. We're not going to create great things if we run those red lights. We're going to create something. We're going to create peace of mind. We're going to create nice things from understanding and working with that system. And it's the same with the system that we are a part of. When we learn about this system, learn about ourselves, learn about who we are, then what we create, what we go on to do. And I love that it's, no matter where we find ourselves, no matter what is going on, no matter how difficult it appears, there is always a slightly better thought. Waiting, if you like, or, you know, there's because there's no time limit, you know. If we don't choose it in that minute, it's not like, oh, that's it. If we go in the wrong direction, if you like, for want of a better, it's not that, oh, that's it, we're screwed now. It's like, no, again and again and again and again and again, we are invited. Here's a slightly better feeling thought. Here's a slightly better feeling thought. And we can choose to go in that direction. That's our free will that we have. And, you know, if stuff has happened to us in our life, if it appears that someone has upset us or someone we love is poorly or potentially going through something not very nice and we don't feel good, it's okay to choose what we choose.
Yeah.
But it is understanding the system and seeing what it is we're doing.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point there, isn't it? That it's okay whatever we choose, because you know, if you are in a situation that for you feels difficult, and it then appears as though what you're doing is sort of choosing and going in more of a more difficult, more painful, harder, more difficult, actually then making that a problem and beating yourself up for it is just more of that same down that rabbit hole, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
actually seeing that, you know, I know for me personally that as much as it's possible, I like to be in a good feeling, but I also am perfectly okay with the not so great feelings, because I actually like, there's something about the contrast and the moments of, do you know what, I had a really shitty day last week, and that really makes me appreciate today because it's such a beautiful day and I'm feeling so good and blah. And I was actually, what the client I mentioned that I was talking to this morning about some of this, she actually said to me at one point, she'd been in an accident and we were having conversations about the kind of emotional sort of upset that that's caused for her. And one of the things she said to me towards the end, it was our last session after a few sessions together, and she actually said to me, it was almost worth having the accident for us to be able to have these conversations. And you know, she was laughing and it was quite tongue-in-cheek, and but there was definitely, for her, there was a real part of, do you know what, in a way I wouldn't now go back and undo the accident, because it led me here. It got me to these conversations. It's meant that I've unraveled and overcome some stuff that I didn't know was possible for me. And I think that's where, when we do sometimes take ourselves down that not so great route, the uncomfortable stuff, the painful stuff, it's never about judging that and making that wrong. It's about recognizing the contrast in that, and the way that that gives us time to go, it was actually worth it. It was actually, you know, worth having that trauma, that moment, that pain, because look where I am now. It gives us, you know, we get to have a human experience. And I know we've often likened that to, you know, if you bought a ticket for a theme park and all the roller coasters were just flat, you'd want your money back because you pay for the
No,
thrill
I
of
like
the
flat
ride.
roller coasters.
But yeah, okay, you and I probably would be like, yes, best day ever. But but on the whole, what, you know, and we say it with books and film, you know, if the book said they lived happily ever after, you'd want your money back. If the film was just a scene at the beginning of this couple falling in love and being, we kind of like the ups and downs. We like we had to go through a bit of grit and gristle to get to where we are now. So it's never about, this is never about, for me, numbing ourselves to any of the bad stuff or making
and
this
not
about
having a human experience. I mean, I know one of the things that we've talked about a lot since, like, my human experience before I came across this understanding used to scare me. I didn't like having a human experience. It felt too difficult. It felt like we were battling and this was hard. And it, to me, it is, you know, I liken it often to a game. Like, you know, I know when we get together as a family, we like to play games, and you know, we've organized things. We've got a big garden, and in the summertime we've organized like football matches between there's all sort, you know. And it's nice to be involved. I know we like playing a good game of Monopoly. I know we like to do these things, and we do them for the pure joy of playing, of pretending that you are my opponent, pretending that I'm, you know, like I need to beat you, and it's fun. It's in you know, we really enjoy it. But the minute, you know, if you're playing a game of Monopoly or something, and you know, even when we're outside and you're playing football and rounders and all of these kinds of things, if someone I know misses the ball or does something, you know, we remind each other, we say, it's only a game, it doesn't really matter, you know, we're all coming back together afterwards to have takeaway or something, you know, there's nothing serious going on here. And we get into it while we're playing it, and we definitely play hard and we play to win and all of that kind of thing, and we, you know, we call out to each other and stuff like that. We get into the game of it. But the truth of it is like we just come back together as one big family again at the end of it. And this to me is the same thing, you know, to have a human experience. We live in that duality. We pretend for a little while that there is more than one. We pretend that we're you know, that we're battling against each other. And it is, to me, the struggle and the suffering comes when we take that a little bit too seriously, and we actually think that, like if we're playing Monopoly or Rounders or something, and we actually felt there was something riding on it. If, you know, if I don't win, I'm not going to be part of this family. I'm not coming back for Chinese takeaway together later, or whatever it is. You know, and it's like, that's never going to happen. I'm part of this loving family, no matter what. You know, whether I win the Rounders or lose it or whatever. And I think for me, it's kind of the same, seeing that that's the same with life, that to have a human experience, we have to buy into this duality a little bit. And this system that we are a part of, this amazing guidance system, is kind of saying, oh, you're taking this game a little bit too seriously. Or, you know, actually, you're moving towards that oneness again. You know that you are just one. There's one being here. There's one thing going on here, but you're just enjoying a game of Monopoly or Rounders or whatever. You're having fun with this. And that, to me, is where what our guidance system is doing. It's kind of saying, oh, hey, you think you're taking this way too seriously. Because you can see, you know, when you watch sport on the television, when we watched a big football match the other day, and it's like, you can see how seriously some people get into those things. And normally, as a group of friends, although we can get into it a bit, at some point we kind of go, yeah, this is a game. Remember, this is a game. We don't need to take it that seriously. And so this, you know, this amazing feeling system that we're a part of kind of says, hey, you've moved a little bit towards the serious end, let's move. And that's what following our good feelings do. They bring us back into alignment with this deeper truth that actually we're just playing a great game of Rounders. And maybe you just missed a few balls. Maybe, you know, you didn't do so well, and you're taking it seriously as if you're going to truly lose something. But it's just a reminder, there's nothing to lose. There's nothing on the line here.
No. And it has to be that in any moment, whether it's a game of Rounders or, you know, anything you're up against, if you like, the reason that there's ease here is because it has to be that everything is available. Like when you're sort of saying this is the thought you're currently in, as it were, you can go this way or that way. That one's a slightly better thought, that one's not so great. It has to be that both are available for free will to be what it is. It can't be that the only thing available to you is more struggle and more pain and more discomfort, or the only thing available to you is more happiness, more peace. Both have to be available for there to be this essence, this feeling of freedom. Free will. We can't, because otherwise we're not free. We're just robots that are being given our next feeling, as it were. And that how animated and alive we are as human beings is evidence that we have an essence and a free will at play here in some form. And I think what you were kind of saying there about playing the game and stuff, it's, we have the free will to play a game and take it completely seriously, and we equally have free will to play a game with nothing riding on it or anything in between. Like, it's the whole spectrum is available to us, and that's both the joy and ease of life.
I really see that the freedom part is so vital, is so important, because again, that is our basic nature, isn't it? Freedom. Like, if it was taken off the table, if one of those options, like you said, it has to be available, that we can feel worse and we can feel better, so that we can choose, so that we can have the free will to choose to feel better. And I know sometimes, you know, we get into habitual things, we habitually follow patterns, and, you know, as I said, I spoke about being a people pleaser, and that has definitely been a habit that I have formed over many years, to people please. And it is definitely, it can be a go-to for me, to sort of think, oh no, do I actually want to do that? Do I actually want to go in that direction? But it's always, there is always something else on the table. If we are prepared to look, there is always something else on the table, and we have the free will to look or not to look. We have the free will to choose or not to choose. But as our fundamental nature is whole and complete and freedom, if either of those things were taken off the table, then we would become robots. We wouldn't be animated human beings. This wouldn't be such a great game.
Yeah, it would be. I don't even know what that would be, but it wouldn't be the system we're actually a part of. And that whole, how this works for each of us is the same. How we play with that and experience that is individual. We have our own versions of that. And I know one of the things when we talk in this way is a huge part of this is an invitation for you to be curious yourself for what you can hear and what we're saying, how you can take that to become alive within you. Because as you can probably tell from the way we're talking, we have both played around with this in our own ways, and something has come alive in us that makes sense to us. And now, whenever we have a moment or a struggle or a no, life's gone hard again, what happened there, we can bounce into these conversations and reawaken both on our own. Like we do that together a lot, but I know we both have internal conversations. If no one else is there, we can go within and have this very conversation just with ourselves, and it reawakens and reignites this understanding that we're pointing to, the knowing of how we work. And that's always our invitation, whatever, whether it's Deb's 60th birthday or whether she's on a call with a client and anything in between, we're always kind of inviting, be curious and kind of listen sort of past the words, if you like, listen for what can be your experience in this. Because I think that's the difference that makes the difference, I think, for us, isn't it? It's not just words that we can very happily sit and spout all day, but actually it's something that we look to live this as often and as much as we can.
Absolutely. I know both that it's something that's quite important to us is walking our talk and playing with it, so that when you show up with someone, you can actually talk from real life experience. And I know for both of us, I'm not interested in having somebody take on what I say and what I believe and what this is for me. What I am mostly interested in is somebody getting curious and going inside themselves and seeing what they have within them, because that's when transformation happens with clients. That's when transformation happens with people. If people just follow you and learn about you, there is something. I know one of the things that is a bar, if you like, for me, it's if I listen to something, if I resonate with it, and that the word resonate to me, I always think of musical instruments when I think of that, this whole, when they come together and there's like a harmony, a nice thing, it's good. And it feels like, if I listen to somebody speak, or sometimes when we're having conversations, and potentially it can be something I'm saying and it's like words coming out of my mouth and there's a resonance, like a lovely feeling within me, or it can be something you're saying and it's like, wow, yeah, that hit the mark. And those things that I resonate with, to me, that feeling of resonating that's something I already on some level knew already. That isn't something you've put into me, or or anyone else, whoever it is I'm listening to. That's awakening something that was already within me. That's a truth I already knew beyond the words, as that deeper part of me. And equally, when I'm listening to someone, if that kind of thing doesn't happen, then I'm just like, okay, for whatever reason right now, that's not my thing. And because of this amazing guidance system, and then if we go back to, resonance is a beautiful feeling. And when we resonate with something, when we, like, I know for me, when I have these conversations, I always come off these calls, whoever it is I'm having these conversations with, I always come off the calls the better for them. Something has resonated in a conversation, something has woken up within me, something has played that beautiful music with my heart while we've been having that conversation. So it's like, if anything, if you are listening to this conversation, if something is making you feel good and you're resonating with it, great. listen away, take that, make it your own, look inside yourself. What is it you know about that? And if it isn't, then just don't worry about it, just discard it for now.
Yeah, I love that.
Well, I am not sure. I have no idea what time we started, and I have no idea what's going on.
No, me either, really.
That feels like a really lovely place to end that conversation. And
Yeah.
what a lovely conversation. Much appreciated.
Nice.
Thank you very, very much.
Yes. Did you want me to nominate somebody else? You said you wanted to.
I did. Yes, didn't I?
Yeah.
Thank you. It's
Yes.
good job. You know what I'm doing.
Yeah, no.
I need some notes when I haven't got you on the call.
Yeah. I was like, oh, did you want to do that on the call?
Yes.
Yeah, because you want to have 60 conversations.
Yeah, I want to have 60 conversations like this. So I'm going to need to have, like, there's 52 weeks in a year, 60 conversations. So I'm going to have, you know, one every week and then squeeze in a few extra. And I just thought it would be really, really interesting with each conversation that I'm having to ask the person that I'm speaking to, is there someone that you think, you know, would be a great a person for me to reach out to ask if you're interested in having one of these conversations?
I mean, there's hundreds, but I did already write this on the post you put out on Facebook, but I want to say this again because I love listening to this person. I love how some of the stuff we've touched on there, they speak beautifully to that kind of essence and spirituality that we are. So I would like to nominate Marina Galan, who I think you're probably connected with, so you can probably hopefully reach out to her.
I will absolutely.
You'll have a gorgeous conversation.
And something else I wanted to add before we wrap up today is it was actually Sue Latchman that when I put that post out that
nominated
about
me.
Marina, it was actually, so a big shout out to the gorgeous, lovely, wonderful, amazing Sue. We love it. Yeah, Sue said she would love to see us have a conversation. So
yes, we've had some very gorgeous conversations with Sue, haven't we? And
I was always going to speak to you anyway, but
yeah, well, I should hope so.
We do it regularly, but yes. So we have had some of the most beautiful conversations with Sue. So Sue, put your name forward.
Thank you, Sue.
And so I will reach out and see about Marina, see what happens.
Lovely.
Thank you very, very much. And if anyone wants to get in contact, wherever you are watching this, I will, underneath this video, as much as I possibly can, definitely on my YouTube channel, you'll be able to find it there. I will pop underneath this video ways that you can connect with Bec and ways that you can connect with me if you want to have this conversation with either one of us any further.
Perfect.
Thanks,
Deb.
Lots of love. Bye.
Bye.